Again in our weekly meeting. Last week we didn't have a meeting, but now we're back to normal. Every week we're trying to explain a certain concept, a certain topic in Kabbalah. Today we're going to talk about a more advanced topic. It's called the lower upper and upper, okay? So it might seem confusing, but we'll try to explain that, okay? So maybe we'll draw it, it will be clear. So in Kabbalah, we talk a lot about connection between 3 degrees, you can say, or 3 levels. Okay, so you have the lower, the upper, and the upper. Okay, in our world, it's like the connection we have between 3 generations. So let's say the son, the father, and the grandfather. Okay, or the daughter, the mother, and the grandmother. So we have this. Connection of 3 levels. But what does it mean in Kabbalah? So when we talk about how the spiritual system was created, how the worlds were created, we're talking about a certain action that took place, which is called the second restriction. Without going too deep into details, because that might be a bit complicated, what happens after that action is that each degree is divided into 2. Okay? So we call the upper part, we usually call it in Hebrew Galgalta Enaim, which means like the skull and the eyes. And the lower part is called the chap, which means like the ear, the nose, and the mouth. And it doesn't really matter, it's not about the names itself, because it's symbolic that they took the names from a face. It has its reasons, but that's not the topic of today. But these are just names, okay? So for now, we'll call it Galgalta Enaim and Achab, just like we say this is a cat, it goes meow, this is a dog, it goes ow ow, without understanding really the names themselves. But each degree was divided into 2, okay? And what's important in that? What we have out of it is that if before this action there was no real connection between the degrees, so each degree stood on itself, by itself, one above the other. Now, after this action, suddenly we have this kind of connection that each level, or the lower part, the lower half of each level is inside or against the upper half of the lower level. And the upper half of each level is against or inside the lower half of the higher level, okay? So we say in Kabbalah that the Galgalta Enaim of the lower one is inside the Achab of the upper one. But again, it's just names. Well, what's important in this kind of connection, or what does it give us, or why the system is built like that? It is built like that because in this method, when we can say that each degree is connected or dependent on another degree, okay? So the father cannot become a father if he doesn't have a son that demands of him, okay? And if you don't have the son that demands from the father, you don't have the father who demands from the grandfather, okay? So there is a mutual dependency in this form of connection, that each one is being defined or becomes who he is through its connection with the upper one and the lower one. We can say more than that. We can even say that if we look on a specific level, let's say the middle one, then we can say that the essence of the middle one is just like the middle point, because the upper half of it is its connection to the upper one, and the lower half of it is due to its connection with the lower one. And so we can start looking on each state, moment, entity, doesn't really matter, as a link in a chain. That each one, if you check it or test it or examine it, it doesn't stand on its own. It's like a certain point, and half of it is connected to the future or the next step, and half of it is connected to the past or the previous step. Depends if you want to talk in terms of time or in terms of cause and effect. Okay, so it's a very important concept that allows us to understand that no one stands on its own, but everything is part of the next step or the next degree, and part of it of the previous degree. Okay, so that's more or less this concept of the low one, the upper, and the upper. Okay. Okay, hello to Emma, Linda, Yatsia, and Sisi. Okay, but no questions. So if you have questions, you are feel free to ask. But I see no questions. Okay, so if you have no questions about this explanation, I guess it's clear. It's not simple or easy, but it's clear. Let's read a bit. So I've pasted in the description box, I've pasted the 2 articles, and of course the link to the free basic course to those of you who want to study in a more methodic way. Okay, so this is from Rav Leitman's blog. I want to be like the upper. Question: how do Galgalta Enaim of the lower and the Achap of the upper connect? Okay, so this is what we saw before. Again, we call, in Kabbalah, we call the upper part Galgalta Enaim and the lower part Achap. So the question here is how the Galgalta Enaim of the lower one and the Achap of the upper one connect. Why is it important? Because if we want to ascend in spirituality, we actually need the upper degree to take us. Sometimes as a sperm in a womb, sometimes as a baby in its hands. On its hands, it really depends on what state we are talking about, but we are dependent on the upper level as much as we're dependent on the low one as well. Answer: it is when they are on the same level, one inside the other. A chap of the upper descends to Galgalta Enaim of the lower and enters it. When the lower wants to connect to the upper, it must enter a chap of the upper with his Galgalta Enaim. Once a chap of the upper is in the Galgalta Enaim of the lower, and another time Galgalta Enaim of the lower is in the chap of the upper, everything depends on who controls the state and who determines it. If I'm the upper, I descend to Galgalta Enaim of the lower, and so I want to enter it and know what happens to it and feel its deficiencies. So I descend into it and am in it and am in its internality. Okay, so what does it really mean? That if I'm acting as the upper one, I want to take care of the lower one, just like I'm thinking of a child or a baby, understand its deficiencies, fulfill it, and by that I grow because I become a mother or a father, like in our world. If I'm the lower one, then I need to then I need to rise above my deficiencies and try to cleave and hold to the upper one, be part of him. Okay, so the example we gave so far is the example of a child, a father, and a grandfather, or a daughter, a mother, and a grandmother, but we can also talk about layers, so it happens the same. So if we take ourselves, so we are in this context or environment which is called a world. So for us, we can say that the world around us is like the achap of the upper one. Okay, so this is like the way I see the Creator. So there is something deeper or more external or hidden or concealed, which we can call the Creator. But we see from it only its lower part, like its external part, and we don't see the internal part. So we can say that our world, or what I see as my world, is the achap, or what we call the achoraim, the back of the Creator. And what I feel as myself right now is like the galgalta enayim of my current state. So if I want to rise and reveal, ascend and reveal the internal part of the reality, the Creator, I need to ascend above my feeling of galgalta enayim, meaning about the feeling of the self, and become one with the world, or with the context that the Creator stabilizes around me. So if I can justify and become one with what I see as my own world, then I attain the Creator inside of it, like the more internal part. And then in the next degree, of course, I will reveal a new layer, which I'll call my world, which will be the spiritual world, and it will be the back or the achap of a more internal attainment, which is like a clearer revelation of the Creator. And so that's how we ascend or rise. So just like we've talked about a lower upper and upper, or what we call a child, a parent, and a grandparent. So we can talk, so the same happens in the me, world, and the Creator, okay? Or if you want, if we're talking in a more practical way, out of all of this reality which we call our world, there is like 99% of it which is hard to work with, because we're not working with the, although the Creator operates on us through still vegetative, animal, and speaking levels, but when we want to actively work and attain the Creator, out of it, the easiest way to do it is with other people who want the same goal. And so we can say that from all this world, the true achap of the Creator, like the more practical way of working with the Creator, is what we call the group, or the 10, meaning a group of people who also want to attain spirituality, and I work with them. And so I annul myself towards them, or I want to live inside of them, or be part of them, or feel the connection between us. These are all the same words, again, in order to attain their internality, their galgalta enayim, which is what we call the Shekhinah, or the Creator, the light. It doesn't really matter. So again, it's the same principle, just depends on what layers you want to talk about. Sometimes we even talk about the same degrees of a certain entity. So I can say that it's myself in different levels. So actually, when I'm trying to play the future state, I'm actually wanting my galgalta enayim to connect to the achap of my next self, of the next me, okay? Of the future me. And I want to fasten the process. So again, there are many different angles to approach it, and like many different implementations, and because our reality is integral and everything is connected, so it doesn't matter how you slice the salami, you find this principle, okay? And that's what's so perfect and interesting in the spiritual reality. Okay, do we have questions about it? Kucham, I hope I pronounce your name correctly, or is it Kujam? The cycle needs some strong legs to pedal down the right path towards the good way. Not sure I understand your question. Maybe you refer to the fact that that you need to have some kind of orientation on how to advance to the internal part. Because how do I know from all the reality around me which is the part that I need to work with in order to attain the internal part, the creator? So as I've said, Kabbalists lay down very specific instructions how to use what we call the group or the 10 that will act as the compass, as the lighthouse that will direct us into the more internal part, okay? Otherwise, you're right, like a person can think that he's advancing or he's working in a spiritual way, but sometimes he only develops his own ego. Okay, many people joined us, but I don't see questions. Hello everyone. In many languages, but no questions. Okay, so I assume that this is correct. Okay, let's maybe read another article. So again, this is from Lightman's blog. Awaken the lower to connect to the upper. How do you ask the upper, the Elyon, for what is truly useful for you? Okay, so how do you create this connection that you receive from the upper, what you need in order to grow? So answer, ask the Elyon, the upper, to let you know what it wants. This is the most certain, the most useful. Make his desire your desire. But to make your desire like his desire, you must know what his desire is. So ask about this. Okay, so the game we play is to try to understand what the Creator wants of us. Okay, so if a person wants to use this world not only in an egoistic way to fulfill himself, so he walks in this world and every moment he asks himself, what does the Creator wants of me? Why does he give me these states that I'm in, or this theater that I'm seeing from inside of me with my emotions and thoughts and outside of me, and what is it that the Creator wants, okay? Sometimes we say that this is like the main principle to try to determine in each step that there is none else beside him, okay? So if you look in the playlist of the series that we're doing, we've talked about none else beside him. Okay, so if I go through this world or through my life and every moment asking this question, then this is like the beginning of the game. Okay, without it, you're not even in the game. Now, if you're doing that, then you start to be more sensitive to what it is that the Creator wants. And of course, you need the help of Kabbalists that did it before you, and they give you all sorts of clues, and they share their experience, and you develop inside of you this sensitivity. And once you start to understand what is it that the Creator wants of you, which is in the end similarity of form, he wants you to become like him. But again, this is words, what I'm saying. It takes time and practice until a person starts to feel and taste what it means to become like the Creator. And then you can start to implement or take actions that will help you become like him. And this is how you start to advance in the degrees. Okay, so the next question here is, but that doesn't work. Okay, so that person that asked tried it and he feels a lot of frustrations and he's not certain that he's doing it right. So the answer is, I don't know. If you asked, maybe you received but didn't understand that this was the answer. Okay, so many times a person thinks that he's asking, but actually he's asking egoistically, and he's actually receiving all the time the true answers, but for him, he doesn't feel that these are the answers. He's just rejecting it, just like a small child that asks for help but rejects what the parents want to give him. So the question goes, how do we identify the achap of the upper one? Okay, so how do I know that this is truly the achap? So we begin to recognize the achap of the upper one to the degree that we connect between us with our galgal ta'anayim. Then we gradually begin to be discerned. Okay, so again, this is all about similarity of form. To the degree that I connect with others, I become part of them. So I become more similar to the quality of bestow, which is opposite of my egoistic desires. And if I do that, then I start to recognize more the upper one and how he operates on our reality. And later on he explains here how it's connected to the 10 Sefirot. You can later on read it. It's just a bit too advanced to go into it right now. If you're interested, again, you have the links. How do we make our galgal ta'anayim want to connect? So dissemination is required because this is mutual work, okay? So later on you'll find out that if you truly want to become like the Creator, like a father or mother, you need to play in being a father or mother. So just like a small child or a daughter takes on a puppet or like a doll and plays with it, and through this game she grows. That's how we do it. So for us it's helping others attain the Creator. So by doing dissemination, what we call teaching about the Creator, sometimes even giving somebody a book or passing him a link, and trying to help others attain the Creator, by that we're playing in becoming bigger. Okay, let's see if we have questions. Excellent teaching. Thank you very much. If you like this session, you can find the whole playlist either in YouTube or Facebook every time we try to explain a different topic. And again, if you want to study in a methodical way, you have the link in the description box, and we are here every Sunday. What are these terms you keep referring to, achap and galgal ta'anayim? Do those words mean anything? Okay, Benjamin, I didn't want to go into that, but for you I'll do it. As I've said in the beginning, these are just names. But for you I'll explain a bit more. So when Kabbalists talk about a certain object in spirituality, and what is this object? In spirituality, because we have only the light, the Creator, the intention to bestow, and the matter, the will to receive. So every entity in reality is a certain combination of these two. Okay, you cannot have light without matter, because how can it be attained or perceived? And you cannot have matter without light. It will be like a black hole. No life, no form, no nothing. So everything in reality is a combination of them two, okay? So in Kabbalah, we call a right combination of them two a face or a parzuf. In Hebrew it's called parzuf, which it means a face. Why does it mean? Why do they use this word? Because a certain combination of the light and matter reveals a certain portion of the Creator. So we say that every time we combine them, these two correctly, we reveal a certain face of the Creator. Okay? Now this Parzuf is divided into 5 main blocks. According to, again, it's according to a different combination between the two. So we call these 5 main blocks, we call them Galgalta, which is like the skull in Aramaic. It's not even Hebrew. And then you have Enaim, eyes, Ozen, which is like ear, Chotem, which is like nose, and Peh, which is like mouth. So you have 5 parts of this Parzuf, 5 different colors or frequencies or flavors in this certain revelation of the Creator, okay? And as I've said in the beginning of this lesson, there is a certain act that happens in the creation of the system of the worlds, which it's called the second restriction, or Tzimtzum Bet in Hebrew. Doesn't really matter now, but it divides this Parzuf into 2. A part which is more connected to the upper degree, and a part which is more connected to the lower degree. And this is all that we've explained in this lesson. So I hope it's clear now. More questions? No, I don't see more questions. Okay, so thank you very much. See you next Sunday, hopefully. And again, you're welcome to watch all the lesson. You're welcome to watch the playlist itself on Facebook or YouTube, and you can and you're welcome to start learning in a methodical course, free course if you want. You have the link in the description, and you're also welcome to check more, to read the whole text, the whole posts that I've posted and I explained in this lesson. And next time you can come with questions if you want from the beginning. I have no problem doing more Q&As if you have them. So take care, people. See you next time.